So in today's tutorial I'm not actually doing anything new. What I'm doing is I'm revisiting the tornado text tutorial that I did last week. I've basically been having a play and I've managed to get the text to be in such a way, as you can see, that you can actually film it from any angle and it maintains its shape and integrity. There's no gaps. So yeah, I just thought I'd share the update with you. Okay, to save a bit of time, I've pre-made some of the Fusion comp. What you're probably best off doing is going and watching the original tutorial first. I'll leave a link to that both in the description and I'll put a card on the video so that you can go and find it. Okay, assuming you've watched the original tutorial, you'll know that this part of the comp is our ribbon text. We have, in this instance, red and white because it makes it a bit easier, but this is the equivalent of the white on black ribbon text. So in the original tutorial it was white on black, and then this is the equivalent of the black on white. So just for ease of memory we'll rename them. So F2 to rename a node, and this one is white on black, and this second one F2, and this is black on white. So again, for each of the ribbons we're going to need a 3D shape. Over here I've set up my 3D environment ready. So I've got the camera, I've got a couple of spotlights, a bit of ambient light, and that's all piped out through the Render 3D. Again, if you've watched the previous tutorial, you'll know how all this is set up. The bit that interests us today is the bit that's in the middle, or not in the middle at the moment. So we have these two transform nodes that basically animate the scrolling text and nothing else. So the first thing we're going to need to do is bring in a 3D shape. Now, unlike the first tutorial where this was a cylinder, this time I'm going to make it a cone. And if we put that into our merge and then view the merge in one of our windows, you can see the cone here. What we want is that cone the other way around. So the first thing we're going to do is come up into our inspector, and where you've got radius and top radius, we're going to swap them over. So radius becomes 0 and top radius becomes 1. All that does is it turns the cone over and gives us our tornado shape. The next thing we're going to do is come down to the base and height subdivisions, and we're going to crank them both up to 100. So the first ribbon text we're going to put on is this white on black, and what we need to do is select our white and black transform node, shift space and type transform, and we're going to add, well we're not because I've mistyped it, let's try that again, transform. We're going to add a second transform node, and we're going to pipe this second transform node into our shape. Now if you see in this viewer, I'm going to press the command key and scroll the middle mouse button to zoom in. It's placed our ribbon text onto the cone. So what we now need to do is position it where we want it on the cone, and for this first one we need it right at the top of the cone. So if you make sure this transform is selected, come over to the inspector and go to center Y and just pull it up. We need to pull it all the way up till it starts to disappear at the top. There, so you can see it's starting to disappear. So bring it down a little bit from there. Next we're going to change the angle. You can have this angle what you want. For this purpose of this tutorial, I'm going to change the angle to 5, so 5 degrees, and you can see it now gives us a bit of a twist. So again, you're going to need to tweak your center Y where you want it. You can either, and I guess where you have it's up to you, you can either sort of have it touching the top at this corner here, or if you want to push it a bit further and make it look as though it's disappearing off the top of the cone, also works, up to you. I went with just touching kind of at here. So that's our first bit. Now we're going to do the black and white, and it's exactly the same process. So select the black and white node, shift space, transform, and then we're going to need a copy of this 3D shape. So simply select the shape, Command C or Control C if you're on a PC, and Command V. Don't need that merge, to get rid of it. And there you've got your second shape. Pipe it in to your 3D merge, and you can see the cone is there until we put our second ribbon text on. And there it is. So again, select your transform node and bring your Y value up, your center Y value, until you're around about your black and white, or your white on black ribbon. Again, with your transform node, you want to change your angle to 5 degrees. Now, if you press your option key and hold your middle mouse button, you can scroll around in your 3D environment. Now we can leave it like that and line this up, and then have a whole ribbon around the circumference of the cone, but I, in the demonstration, made it half and half per revolution, so we'll do the same here. And all we need to do for that is select the first shape 3D, which is our white on black ribbon, and come to angle and drop the end angle down to 180. So you're going from 0 to 180 degrees. For the second shape 3D, which is our black on white, we're going to do the opposite, and we're going to take the start angle and bring that up to 180 degrees. So now between the two ribbons you've got one revolution of your cone. Again, pressing your option key and your middle mouse button, you can scroll around, and basically what we're looking for is this join. So we need to get that kind of centered, and again, using your command and scroll in the middle mouse button, you can zoom in and out. We want to get the join as much into the screen as we can so we can see what we're doing. To pan around, you just hold the middle mouse button with no qualifier, so bring it in. Now, as you noticed when we first came into the Fusion comp, it wasn't black and white, it was red and white and blue and black. Basically it just makes it a little bit easier to see what we're doing. So what we need to do is line up these two ribbons and close this little gap. So to line up the ribbons, we're going to come to transform 2, which is our blue ribbon. The red ribbon's already placed, that's the one that's just touching the top of the cone, so we don't need to move that one at the minute. The blue ribbon is in transform 2. Select transform 2 and come to your Y center and bring it down. Now, unqualified, you get quite big movements if you do this, whereas if you press the command key or the control key at the same time, you get a much finer movement. So what we're trying to do is line them up. To close the gap, you're going to come into your shape 3D node, in this case shape 3D 1_1, select your transform tab and come to translations, and you're looking at the Z axis, again with the Control or Command key pressed, click on the numbers and just slowly bring it in. You need to get it as close as you can without, if you notice, you get the two ribbons intersect, and what we're trying to do is get the two ribbons as close as we possibly can without any obvious intersection. So I think about there is as good as we're going to get, and release. And that is basically your first layer of ribbon. Now if you don't do half and half, then you'll get much closer lettering or much closer ribbons. If you reduce the angle from 5 degrees to 2.5 degrees, you'll get much closer angles and we'll be able to fit in more ribbons, but I just think 5 degrees kind of works quite well. So now we've got those first two set up, we get into the realms of being repetitive. So let me just tidy this up a bit. So for each layer of two ribbons, you're going to need the two transform nodes, your two shape 3D nodes. So just select all four nodes, Command C to copy, click away from your node tree, Command V to paste, and just reposition them. Again, paste your two shape 3Ds into your scene merge, and we need a white on black into the first transform and a black on white into the second transform, and at the minute you can't see them, so what we do is we come down to our first transform of our second pairing and we again drop the Y value, and now you'll see the second red ribbon start to appear. Again, Option and middle mouse button to allow you to rotate your scene, Control and middle mouse button scrolling to bring your joint into view. With your transform selected, finally move the Y center until you line up. You can double check in the shape 3D node transform and just check your Z translation to see if you can get that join any better. A little bit. Again, we come down to the second transform node. If we just scroll out a bit, in the second transform node, Y center, drop it down to bring your second blue ribbon somewhere in line with where you want it. Swing around again, reposition and zoom in so that we can get it somewhere where we can see what we're doing. So again, transform node, center Y to align it, and then shape 3D, transform and Control and Z translation just to make the joint as good as we can get it, which I think is probably about there. Again, we can zoom out to see what we've got. Just double checking the other joints. It's alright. Sorry, that top joint didn't look right, but it must have just been the angle. So again, for this tutorial, one last time, select your four nodes, your transforms and your shape 3D, copy and paste, pipe your shapes into your merge and bring down a white on black into the first transform node and a black on white into your second transform node, and then again it's just a case of transform first. Transform first, drop your center Y to bring your third red ribbon down, spin around, zoom in and reposition so that you can see the join, and then with your control key pressed for fine control, just bring it in and line it up into a shape 3D, transform, Z translation, again with the command key pressed, just tidy it up, and then finally the last transform node, center Y, drop it down, and you'll see our last blue ribbon fall into place. Spin it round, zoom back so we can see what we're doing, spin it round, zoom back in and position it so you can get the best view. And use your transform, center Y just to line it up, and then you shape 3D, transform, Z translation, just pop it a little bit to tidy it up, and then you can zoom out, and there is your tornado text. As I say, if you want more lines or more layers, drop your angle or use a whole rotation for each ribbon, your choice. So that's basically it. If we now come back to our media out node, we can drop that into a window and you can see the effect that we've got. What I also did before I sort of started the tutorial was I set up a rotation on the camera so that the camera is currently rotating around, so that you can see as it comes along the red will appear and you've got one continuous spiral. Unlike the other tutorial, we don't need the grid warp here because we've got our shape with the cone. We've got our nice clean joints. You can position the camera anywhere, it doesn't matter. The joints are there, the joints are viewable, and it all works. That's basically it. As I say, it's nothing new. I just wanted to sort of share the better way of making the cone shape. Hope you like it, hope it's useful. Please subscribe, like and hit the notification bell, and I'll catch you on the next one. Cheers.